The Dallas Mavericks are now 37 and 28 and continuing to stick right at the 8 seed. Luka's MVP case at this point, if things stay the way they are and the Mavericks continue to ride the 8th seed into the play-in, Luka probably will not end up winning the MVP, sadly. But on the bright side, the Mavericks are one win away from the Kings. They are 2 games away from the Phoenix Suns and also about 3 games from the Pelicans. Pelicans are also on the rise right now, and that's one that I don't see us catching up to, but we could definitely still get to the 6th seed if Phoenix can calm down a little bit. Something that has really been bothering me a lot lately, Luka straight up is overcoming odds right now. Like, if Luka doesn't have a masterful performance, the Mavericks are probably going to lose. So, for all of the casual fans out there that don't watch the Mavericks and just throw out the Luka's doesn't play defense and that's why the Mavs lose narrative, please stop. Watch games before you comment on stuff. It's painfully ignorant and just makes you look like an idiot to anyone who actually watches Luka play or the Mavs play. Like, not even just for Mavs fans. Like, if you're a serious NBA fan, you're not going to have that opinion, and everyone who's a serious NBA fan knows that. So, just stop commenting stupid things. Go and comment on players you actually pay attention to and understand and know the information about in the context, and that'll make you look a lot smarter in the comment section. So, I wanted to talk about how Luka is overcoming those odds and what those odds are. The first one, I want to talk about Jason Kidd. I think Jason Kidd is severely limiting the Mavericks this season, and I don't really think the Mavericks would be anywhere close to where they are right now if he was not throwing out -5 lineups in fourth quarters on a regular basis. For context, the Mavericks did go on a 7-game win streak starting a couple games before the trade deadline and continuing that streak 4 games afterwards once obtaining PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, and then proceeded to follow that going 5-6 in their next 6 games. And the past 3 games we've actually won, so that's really nice because overall that's 11-5 or 11-6, I think. We lost another game in there, I think. I'm not sure. Can't remember the math, but 11-5-ish for the last 2 months. So that's, or a month and a half. So that's pretty good. 11-5. You'd think the Mavs would maybe rise in the standings a little bit. No, the West is insane. The Mavs go 11-5 and it's still in the 8th seed. But yeah, I truly do not believe. Okay, I take that back. I wrote this down a few days ago before the Bulls game, and last night I did see a lot of changes that I did really like as far as the defensive scheme and effort. A lot of the issues were just with simply over helping on post ups or isolations that we really didn't need to help with because it instantly sends everyone into rotation. And if you have a Tim Hardaway Jr. or a Luka on the floor and you're constantly in rotation every single defensive possession, there's going to be some major lapses on the contesting of 3-point shots, and that's why teams have shot so well against the Mavericks over the stretch, even going 11-5 or 11-6, whatever it is. The Mavericks still have let teams continue to shoot well above their average from 3 against them. And last night we got to see a couple lineups changes. And, the rotations look a lot more crisp. There's definitely still some lapses. The Bulls were not playing their top basketball, but there were some things that you could be happy with. Obviously, getting 2 blocks from each of your centers is definitely nice. Watching them both go for 20-7 and 22-7 for Lively and 2 blocks. Also 3 assists and a steal for Lively, I believe, as well. That's some awesome center production from those guys. And, a lot of those buckets came from Luka assists, and surprisingly some Tim assists in there. Was not expecting to say that going into that game. But yeah, that's some really solid center minutes. Earlier in this season, being a Mavericks fan, I don't think I could ever say that two of our centers on the roster were going to go for a combined 42 and 14 and 4. So that's definitely something to look at the bright side about. Another point I had was I love Kyrie. Kyrie has been one of my favorite players since I first saw him on the Cavs. I've been a fan of Kyrie this whole time. But my take is that his co-star is not exactly complementary to his skill set. And what I mean by that is that for when you look at the other star duos in the league, typically their skill sets complement each other. Like, for example, the two-man game with Jokic and Murray. Murray is a very good pull-up shooter from mid-range three, wherever. Jokic is a very good pick-and-roll player, playmaking or scoring out of it, and so is Murray. And Murray also plays defense, which is complementary to Jokic's skill set as well from the guard standpoint, because it'd be a lot harder to build around Jokic with a guard who doesn't play very good defense. You look at Dame and Giannis, that's a really complementary skill set. You have a guard who can shoot and pass, and a big man who can roll. Well, Giannis and Dame are still very elite duo in how they can score in the offense together and how they complement each other. Same for even Booker and KD do different enough things now that Booker is a pretty solid playmaker. Bam, Jimmy, all those guys fill in holes that the other guy doesn't. And Kyrie and Luka don't fill each other's holes. Kyrie and Luka do not complement each other in the sense that they have the same basic skill set. They're both not entirely fantastic defenders. They're both solid. Oh, well, Luka's obviously a generational playmaker, but Kyrie's also a very solid playmaker, both elite scorers and shot creators. But like I said, they don't pick up each other's slack. And I think that can be a problem going forward as far as the ceiling for the roster, just because of your two most paid guys do the same thing. It's kind of the same thing with the Celtics the past couple of years before they completely did an overhaul of their roster. People were saying you might need to end up trading Brown if you want to raise the ceiling of this roster, if you want to go further, not further in the playoffs, but finish it out once you get there. It's the same thing as that, where you have two guys doing pretty much the same thing. And listen, Luka and Kyrie still play fantastic together. No doubt. They have no problem playing off of each other. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fit as far as roster construction goes and how those guys fit in perfectly together. Aaron Gordon playing off of Jokic and Murray playing off of Jokic playing off of Murray. You have KCP in the corner, who is a great defender and shooter and can also create his own shot from time to time and keep ball movement going. Michael Porter Jr. is also a good defender who's going to be on the wing and can spot up and can shoot in movement, do whatever he needs to off of screens and catch the pass from Jokic, shoot it, whatever. All of those guys, obviously I'm picking out the most well-constructed starting five in the league, or maybe the Celtics actually, but that's just the way they were able to construct that roster has to do with the complementary pieces that were to base the roster's identity off of before they got those final pieces. And I feel like for the Mavericks to get those final pieces, they just have to fill a lot more holes than guys would on other teams like that with their star duos. And that kind of leads into my next point, and that's every other MVP candidate has a squad that fits very well around them. Like I already mentioned with Jokic, with Tatum, I don't think Tatum's going to win MVP, but the roster's constructed as perfectly around that guy as possible, like completely optimized. The amount of playmaking that every single guy in the starting five is capable of is not, none of them are elite playmakers, but they're all good playmakers, and they all can shoot, they can all play defense. Like, there's no holes. The only hole is that, honestly, Tatum sometimes just isn't there. Like, he's playing great defense, no matter what, so he's still going to be a positive regardless. But the dude will have games where in the fourth quarter he's just not even there anymore, and that's why they're not, like, I mean, I say it's a flaw even though they're easily the best team right now. But in the fourth quarter, if it's a close game, the Celtics are not a team that percentage wise in those situations you necessarily want to put your money on. And that's the only weakness they have. And it's not even that big of a weakness because they're already blowing teams out by 30 every night. And like even the Knicks with Brunson, OG, with DiVincenzo, Hart, and obviously Hartenstein's been insane, especially once Mitchell Robinson, Randall, OG, and everyone's healthy. Like that team, I mean, there's not a superstar duo on it, but it's so well constructed to be able to, for the offense to flow and for the defense to be able to connect. Like when I look at the Mavs, I love the guys on the roster, but I don't really see that, like, and I'm a huge Mavs fan, but the cohesiveness of the unit can be a little limiting as well. And I definitely think Luka is plenty good enough to overcome that, but that's why I called it what Luka is overcoming, or how Luka is overcoming the odds. And I definitely think that's an odd that he's having to overcome. I kind of made another section of like on the bright side for the Mavericks. The Mavs have a relatively easy schedule. Not, I wouldn't say easy, but because they're going to have to play Nuggets, Kings a couple times, Thunder a couple times, or maybe Thunder just once. I can't remember. Warriors several times, which I think Curry's out for this first game coming up, but after that he'll probably be back. There's no telling. There's a string of games that I could see us winning, and that's really good to see, because if the last several games of the season were just stacked, like fall out of the play-in like last year, that would not be a situation I would want to go in. I didn't think that would happen last year either, though, so take that with a grain of salt. The other thing I put is the team is looking a lot healthier, and the chemistry with the new guys looks like it's starting to gel a lot more. And this is something that, especially last night, I waited to make this video just because I didn't really know what I could take. Like, the Heat game was very interesting. Obviously, the Pistons, I don't know what you're going to take from that game. And then the same thing with last night. The Bulls played pretty terrible, but Luka and Kyrie didn't shoot very good, and we still won by 35. And I say very good as in, like, no, I mean, they shot well below their average, so they didn't shoot very good. Even they played pretty solid, but overall, but they did not shoot. Before the All-Star break, or before the trade deadline, a good half of the season up to that point, the Mavs had 5 guys missing for like a month at a time. Like Kyrie, DJJ, Maxey, Lively, Exum, all those guys were missing heavy time in that period, and the Mavs stayed kind of steady. They never really fell, like, dropped out of the play. I don't think they ever dropped out of the play-in. And you make a pretty decent, I mean, sizable trade at the trade deadline, and you bring in 2 guys that need heavy minutes, and it's going to take time for those guys to gel. The team needs continuity. They need to build on their chemistry together. They're going to have time to see, like, just fundamentally, how are we going to play this game? Who has what role? You can say all those things. You can talk about roles. You can talk about what you're going to do, the game plan, all that before the game. But once the game starts, those decisions have to be made on the fly. And you have a guy like PJ Washington who's used to having a decent scoring load. I'm sure it's not super comfortable for him when he only gets 3 shots in one game. Like, especially when he looks over and Tim Hardaway Jr. Chunking up 8 in his 15 minutes. It's got to be hard to figure out where you're going to be in the offense. Not everyone can just gel like that with any new team, especially a guy like PJ who's been on the Hornets for the past 6 or whatever years. A guy like Gafford, who, yeah, he was drafted the Bulls, but he played for the Wizards for most of his career up to this point. Like, those guys have been in a comfortable situation, known what they're going to do, and they didn't care a whole lot because they didn't need to win, and they knew they weren't going to win. Now they're in a situation where they want to win. They have to figure out how to do that together. So I would be a little bit more lenient. I found myself being really down on this season, a little stressed, a little upset, a little pissed. But I think it's good to be a little bit more understanding of where this roster is right now and what they need to do to build on that. And if anything, I already was going into this season with the mindset of this is a retooling season. We've got to get our roster together and then optimize it next offseason when we have more picks. And we are going to have some picks. We are going to have THJ's salary. We're going to have a couple guys we can send if we need to make a big push. I don't think they're going to be able to go out and get a star guy, obviously, but finding a good, solid starting 3 that can shoot. I know that seems like a normal thing to ask for, but it actually seems like it's turning out to be a lot to ask for. Herb Jones here in Dallas, whatever you want, we can get you, man. Just come on over. Herb Jones, we've got a seat on the roster for you, man. Just a little recap of last night's game. 127-92 against the Bulls. The only quarter we lost was the second one without Luka playing, and we lost at 18-26. But first quarter we won 44-16. Third quarter 36-22. Fourth quarter 29-28, which is a little close, but at that point it was mostly garbage time that whole quarter. They left Luka in a little bit just for him to try to make his 1-3 to keep his 30-point triple-double going. He got fouled on a 3. They didn't call it. The kid took him out. It's fine. It's whatever. Like, we don't want him injured, but we also like the records, Let him do what he wants to do, but at a certain point, take him out. And that's what happened. It was all fine. Luka ended up with 27, 12, and 14 in 33 minutes. Didn't shoot great. He was 9 of 23, so 39% from the field. He still hit 6 of 14 from 3, which is still 40%, but 15 threes, man. That is, I mean, it's a good percent, like a solid percentage, but usually 15 is like if you've caught fire, you're going to start pulling it. And he didn't really have that. But, he was trying in the end to get to 30 so he could keep the 30-point triple-double streak going. Lively, like I said earlier, 22-7. Oh, actually, he had 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. What a game from Lively, man. Oh, and I didn't even mention, Gafford, I believe, has 24 straight field goals for the Mavericks right now, which that's an NBA record. How? Daniel Gafford has now done something that LeBron James has never done. He has done something that Hakeem Olajuwon, that Shaquille O'Neal has never done. Wow. That guy's on our team. I mean, Luka's also done several things that those guys have never done, like he just did, but, I'm not going to say that. Anyways, guys, I just thought there were a couple things I wanted to talk about with the Mavs, and it's kind of just on my mind. I've seen a lot of people in the comment section really annoying the crap out of me, and wanted to, kind of just vent a little bit, All right. Well, see ya.